This guy thinks he's like running the show, getting in my shot right here. Like, thinks he's so sick.
So you getting this? Me doing something?
I like your pants.
I like your pants.
Can you imagine actually saying that to somebody in like I mean, maybe in like the fashion world, like if someone's actually wearing cool pants, it could be, it would make sense. Like, oh dude, that's, cool pants, man. But if someone's just wearing like jeans and you just say, I like your pants, it's gotta be so weird.
Yeah, thanks, I like them too.
But that's pretty much what the basis of this film is. When Danny sent me this script, I read it a couple times because I literally had no idea what I was even reading. It was the weirdest thing I've ever read, but I also laughed really hard while reading it because I feel like I knew Danny's personality while reading it, and I understood what he was trying to get across with some references and going back and forth and looking at different, images that best represented what we were going for. I had a good understanding of what Danny wanted to accomplish visually for this film. It's kind of interesting making a video like this because, I shot his feature and now I'm shooting this short film, working with Danny when I was younger. At that point in my life and his role as a mentor for me was really in the realm of cinematography. But now it's a little bit different, and I still look to him as this mentor figure in my life, but a great mentor is one that is like evolving. You could have a great mentor at one stage of your life, but there's going to be a point where you're going to evolve, you're going to grow, and you may, I'm not going to necessarily say like outgrow that mentor, especially if they stay, somewhat stagnant in their life or if they're not evolving themselves. But I've found in my relationship with Danny that he is one that is consistently evolving, growing, and likewise for myself. So my relationship with him in terms of that mentorship has changed drastically. And, from the feature to this short film, I still learn a ton from him. And one of the things that I've really learned to grasp working with him is the idea of simplicity. Like, this short film was a tight crew. We were able to accomplish something really amazing, really well done, with not much. It was just a strong story, a strong vision, strong ideas in the visual form, like colors, locations, mood, tone. People will have an idea and want to do too much that will overextend themselves and their resources to the point of almost not being able to do it because their ideas are so big that their resources don't extend to that place. The restrictions, I think, come with a great result. Almost brings you back to when you're kind of first starting, but obviously in a slightly more elevated way with more knowledge, with more experience. But I think that's the beauty of these projects, and even the feature, was we had so much to do in such little time that having a great understanding of your foundations as a cinematographer really plays a role in these style shoots, because you need to be able to think quickly. You need to be able to look at what the world is giving you and how you can adapt to that, how you can augment what is given to you quickly, efficiently, and still make it look like it's a very professional looking, very high quality looking image. And without a doubt, I think we accomplished that. And yes, I know we shot on the Sony Venice, we shot on cinema lenses, I get that. But at the same time though, you could hand that camera and lens to somebody that is just starting, and it would look totally different. Yes, it plays a role in the quality of the camera and the quality of the lens, but it's also, it is the person behind it. It is the people behind it. It's not just the DP, it's the directors, the DP, it's the G&E team, art, everyone that's involved in making of it. So quick word from today's sponsor, me. I'm sponsoring this video because I have a t-shirt, and you probably saw it in this, the behind the scenes video, but I made a t-shirt with my buddy Tomas. He owns East Waves Co. It's a clothing company based in New Jersey. If you want to purchase the shirt, the proceeds are going to a nonprofit organization in Africa called Malele Home. If you want to buy a shirt, click the link in the description. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you for supporting Malele Home.
Head up and action.
The wood scene was pretty wild because the first scene that we did was the main character laying down and Danny pouring fake blood on him, and then he would have to spew the blood up, and it was gross, but it was pretty cool. I commend the commitment of actors. Like, he was just laying down in the dirt in his underwear, coughing up fake blood. I mean, I don't know what else you could say. Like, the commitment is insane. And then after that, we went to a high angle top down, and the resources that you need to be able to do a safe top down on the Venice is insane compared to an FX3. Granted, I wouldn't say that what we did was the safest, but it was fine. We just took the FX3, I think we tied it to an 1/8 pin and put that in a C-stand knuckle, boomed out the C-stand arm, and shot that thing up. Is it the safest? No. Did it work? Yes. So we were able to get the shot, and we were able to do it quickly, efficiently, and without spending any money. So for those that think that you need to spend an insane amount of money to rig that big camera overhead because you don't want to use a small camera, it's just not a feasible answer anymore. Like, the FX3 matches so beautifully with the Venice, and be able to do it so quickly is such a great resource for DPs to have, because you can spend time on other things that are more important than an hour trying to rig a Venice when this takes 5 minutes. So keep that in mind for a lot of you that are stuck in the mindset that you only need to use the big camera for everything. And there are some projects where that is the case and you have the resources, and that's totally fine. And I do that a lot of commercials, but for things that are smaller, don't hesitate to use smaller equipment and smaller resources to be able to get what you're looking for in efficient, cost-effective, and time-efficient manner. And going with that, there was a tracking shot that we had, and in the initial conversation, we were thinking about bringing a Steadicam operator, but it was one shot, and it just didn't work out to be able to bring one. So we just used an FX3 again on a gimbal. It looks great. It matches perfectly, and there is a bit of ego that could be like, oh, I wish we had a Steadicam. It would be great, have the big camera on there. But at the same time, it's like we could have spent an extra 30 minutes putting the Venice on the Steadicam, and then having to do that, taking it off the Steadicam, and bringing someone on for only like a 15-minute thing, 10-minute shot, not even, just didn't seem plausible. So we just decided to do the FX3, and it worked great. Moving on to the car scene. I don't think BTS was on this because we had to keep a bit of a lower profile, but we drove to this like back road somewhere. Yeah, I think the important thing here was that the tracking shot and the shot of him putting the donuts in his pocket had to match with this shot. And it was difficult because they weren't the same location. The wide shot at the end when the car is pulling up is covered in trees, so it's less sky that is hitting the subject. Whereas the close-up and the tracking shot, it was trees covering one side and sky hitting the other side, so it was a lot more open, a lot more light coming through. And the other thing to note real quick is that we were shooting kind of nearsighted on the tracking, and when we cut to the donuts, we're still on the same side of the line, and then we cut to the wide with the car pulling up, we were still on the same side of the 180 degree, and then when we go to the last shot of him through the car, we're still on the same side of that 180 degree. So we never cross, but we're still nearsighted, which for a lot of people is very rare to do. Most cinematographers are taught to shoot far-sighted, shoot into the shadows. That's usually what you're doing most of the time, but there is an occasion where shooting nearsighted, where the shadows on the opposite side of the faces can be done really nice and done effectively, but it's a lot harder. But it could also be like this shot is like pretty creepy. I'm not gonna lie, like the walking shot with the donuts, it's creepy, and the shadow on the dark side, to me it works perfectly. Just another note to say, like, if you're not shooting far side, that's okay, as long as it makes sense for the story, makes sense for what you're getting accomplished, and you're continuing to stay on that 180 degree line and not flip-flopping all the time, because then that can become jarring. The last scene that we did was in a convenience store, and the references that we had were mostly Euphoria, I believe. The one with Sydney Sweeney, the one with Nate, and I think we accomplished the look pretty great, given Danny's insane color abilities. But again, my job was to make sure that the exposure and the contrast was at a level that was appropriate, that was kind of matching what we were going for. The big thing with this in terms of the cinematography was we didn't want to turn off any of the overhead lights that were built in. If we were on a big commercial, we had time to pre-light, I would change a lot of the lights that were in there, make it more controlled, and make it how I want. But because we were only there for 3 hours and Danny wanted to keep it as natural as possible, make it look real, we kept every light on in the convenience store, which just flooded the entire place with overhead lighting. And the tubes that were built in, they all weren't the same. So there was some mix match in color, which I actually kind of liked. I think that is a nice touch. And you could do that with like a Stereotubes, but with the fluorescence overhead, they weren't all the same, but I thought that was kind of a nice thing. The big part of how I was able to control the lighting was by the 4x neg and the 8x neg as well, 8x solid. Looking at the composition, I just had to pinpoint which overheads were causing the most distraction, causing the most spill, and which ones I wanted to control. And a lot of the times it was controlling the overhead, either with a 4x silk or a neg, to make sure that I was softening the top light coming down so there wasn't weird shadows, and also making sure that the overheads near the face, maybe on the opposite side of the turnstile, were being blocked, so I can use my light to wrap it and make it a more consistent, higher quality light. I believe we used a light mat 2L for this, and we used some Nanlite Pavo tubes. Between those and a bunch of neg and a diffusion, that's how we were able to accomplish the convenience store look. And finally, after about, I feel like it's almost 2 years now since I pulled it out, my homemade dolly. Man, I remember building this thing thinking I was going to use it all the time. I think I used it once or twice, but it came in handy on this one. Instead of renting a Dana dolly, I brought my homemade skateboard wheel dolly. Not gonna lie, this thing is a gem. This thing is buttery smooth. I'm not gonna lie, the wheels, you hit them, rolls like crazy. You can't even hear it. We used that one shot because we were pushing into the character's face to do a match cut into that overhead of him, choking in blood. That was just a cut that Danny envisioned in his head, and to get to that cut, instead of it being just a random jump cut from 2 static images, we went from one push in to a close-up that was a relative distance and relative size of his head in the frame that matched that overhead. So it was kind of a seamless cut, but it was motivated by that push in. So we used my dolly to be able to do that, and it worked awesome. So who needs a Fisher dolly when you have Home Depot Carlo dolly? Not me. So that's an overall view of I Like Your Pants. I think it's on Danny's channel at this point. So hopefully you got to see it before watching this one, or if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. But this was a fun project. It feels great to be able to collaborate with a small group of people, and everyone just, working hard to accomplish one vision. And it's fun just creating stuff with friends. So I encourage you all just to go out with friends, go create something, go have fun. Regardless of what you're shooting on, regardless of how many lights you have, whatever your resources, just, if you're gonna create a story, fine tune that story, utilize color, wardrobe, things to make it pop. Because it all matters in the story. So remember why you started filmmaking. Just have fun, be surrounded by good people, your friends, and you're gonna have a great time, and you're gonna create something awesome. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. I will see you guys next time. Have a great day. Peace out.